Good evening. Welcome to Epiphany Lutheran Church. I'm Kevin Barger, the Director of Music Ministry. We're here looking at our hymns that we'll be using in worship tomorrow, our Music Minute. And we're going to start with our sending hymn tomorrow on the first Sunday of Lent. This is O Lord Throughout These 40 Days. And this hymn actually appears in many denominational hymnals. It's closely associated with the Lenten season, as you might have guessed. The woman who wrote this wrote more than 150 hymns for children, and some were original, and some of those were translations from Latin hymns. She was the daughter of an Anglican priest, and its tune is actually not the original. It was a reworked tune that actually sits better with the text. So this is, O Lord, Throughout These 40 Days. Maybe you recognize that. We also sing that tune. The tune name is Consolation. We sing it in Advent. Fitting that we would have Advent and Lent. We will now turn to the hymn of the day. And this is When We Are Tested, a new hymn from our All Creation Sings supplement. And this is a prayer based on the temptation of Christ. The text is set to a traditional Irish tune, which you'll recognize probably, Be Thou My Vision. And it brings to mind some Bible stories with short words or single phrases that you might recall. So you have the wrestling that we find in Genesis. We have bread and stone that we hear about in Matthew. We have food that sustains that comes in Exodus. And by night and by day in Exodus 13. So we are situating the struggle to be faithful within the biblical narrative with all these different words and images. The hymn calls from that struggle upon God who nourishes us, who lifts us, teaches, and holds us. Ruth Duck wrote this, and she was a United Church of Christ pastor. She's a professor, feminist, practical theologian, and hymn writer, so she is quite well renowned. This is When We Are Tested. Such a lovely tune. We will turn next to the communion hymn, which will be When Peace Like a River. And this hymn was really born out of a lot of grief. Its author lost his 4 daughters at sea on a French liner, for whom the tune is named for that French liner. He was actually sending his wife and daughters on this ship so that they could work on healing and health for his wife. His wife survived being struck by when they were on this liner, and the 4 daughters did not. So it was very, very stressful and grieving. Its text comes from a person with a strong Presbyterian background. The tune comes from one with a solid Baptist background, and let's add on to the grief. So the Presbyterian background, I just shared with you the story of that. The tune writer wrote this the same year that he was killed in a train wreck. So more grief was surrounding that. And the hymn is somewhat awkward to sing sometimes because of the structure with there are higher notes at the ends of phrases, which oftentimes make it a little bit harder to sing. So if you're ever singing along and you feel like this doesn't kind of sit right, maybe that's why. But at any rate, When Peace Like a River. So Peace Like a River that didn't end so peacefully. Nice arrangement of it. And last but not least, we'll go back to the gathering hymn, O Love, How Deep, How Broad, How High. And some hymns just tell a complete story from start to finish, from creation to death. And this is one of them. This focuses on God's love and what he did for us. God, oh love, how deep, how broad, how high. The text is a 15th century Latin hymn, and the tune also comes from that same 15th century time period. It's vigorous and somewhat raucous hymn, and it's fitting for such a text. So we're going to go a little bit jazzy on O Love, How Deep, How Broad, How High. raucous, jazzy, yeah, it all fits. Anyway, thank you for joining us this evening for this first Sunday in Lent as we get going here. And if you're joining us in person tomorrow, those services are at 8:30 and 11 o'clock in the sanctuary, and the 11 o'clock service will be live streamed on our YouTube channel. Thanks again for joining. Have a great evening.